While today's standards of wealth may seem unreachable for most regular people, the list of those on the top wealthiest in the world today may seem rather pale when compared to the wealth of those from history's past. These massive amounts of wealth were acquired through a variety of ways, whether through power, domination, inheritance, or through building huge business empires. From historical figures who were figuratively on top of the world to those who were central key figures of industry that brought influence while acquiring great wealth. In this video, we are taking a look at the top 10 richest people in history. Before we jump to it, don't forget to click the like button, share, subscribe, and press the notification bell for more updates. Number 10, Henry Ford, $200+ billion. One of the biggest major figures in American business history, Henry Ford is the founder of the hugely profitable Ford Motor Company, which revolutionized vehicle manufacturing and brought automobiles into the mass market. In 1920, Ford Motor Company sold over 1 million vehicles in 1 year alone. Ford was a transportation revolutionary himself and was a trailblazer in industry and business. He instituted higher wages for his workers and was the chief developer of the assembly line technique for mass production, which allowed for the manufacture of inexpensive goods that trickled to consumers by providing vehicles and products that the masses could afford. He created the first automobile that the middle class could afford while purposely transforming the landscape of transportation and civilization itself within the 20th century. Number 9, Cornelius Vanderbilt, $202 billion. Born to a struggling family in Staten Island, Cornelius Vanderbilt went from rags to riches during his lifetime to become one of the most famous names in American history. Vanderbilt built his fortune through the construction of railroads and shipping lines during the 1800s, eventually amassing a colossal fortune and became the patriarch of the wealthy and influential Vanderbilt family. Through his railroad and shipping endeavors, Cornelius Vanderbilt improved and expanded America's transportation infrastructure, which greatly contributed to the transformation of U.S. geography. He is the founder of Vanderbilt University, as he embraced new technologies and new forms of business organizations and used them to compete and create the corporate economy that would define the United States into the 21st century. Number 8, Osman Ali Khan, Asaj Jah VIII, $230 billion. Mir Osman Ali Khan was the last ruler of the princely state of Hyderabad in India. He ascended the throne in 1911 at the age of 25 and ruled until 1948, when Hyderabad was annexed by India. His Exalted Highness, the Nizam of Hyderabad, is considered among the wealthiest individuals of all time and was featured by Time magazine in 1937 on its cover as the world's richest person. The Nizam was reputedly a benevolent ruler who oversaw the expansion of education, science, and infrastructure developments by installing electricity, constructing airports, roads, and railroads in the region. He is considered as the architect of modern Hyderabad, establishing many of the public institutions in the city which still operate today. The Nizam was so wealthy that he used the 185-carat Jacob diamond simply as a paperweight. As ruler of the state, he had his own mint and a massive private treasury of gold and jewels. Number 7, Tsar Nicholas II of Russia, $300 billion. Nikolai Alexandrovich Romanov, better known as Tsar Nicholas II, is probably famous for being the last emperor of Russia before the empire fell during the Russian Revolution. As emperor of all the Russias and an autocrat, the resources under his command were virtually incalculable. While his personal riches is said to be speculative, he ruled from 1894 to 1917 and held his empire's coffers, which made him one of the richest monarchs in history. Number 6, Andrew Carnegie, $337 billion. Scottish-American industrialist and philanthropist Andrew Carnegie holds critical acclaim by leading the massive expansion of the U.S. steel industry in the late 19th century, thus amassing a personal fortune that is incomprehensible in today's worth. Carnegie came from a rather poor family with a typical one-room house and emigrated to the United States in 1848 when he was only 12. He worked as a telegrapher and later invested in the railroad industry until his Carnegie Steel Company was merged with J.P. Morgan's U.S. Steel in 1901. At the time, U.S. Steel was the largest steel producer and largest corporation in the world, and even became the first billion-dollar corporation. During the last 18 years of his life, he gave away $350 million, amounting to 90% of his money, or roughly $5.2 billion in today's value, to charities, foundations, and universities. Number 5. John D. Rockefeller, $367 billion. John D. Rockefeller is a well-known American business magnate who is widely considered the wealthiest American of all time and the richest person in modern history. He grew to prominence over his lifetime as the co-founder of Standard Oil Company, with his own wealth soaring as kerosene and gasoline grew in importance. At his peak, he controlled 90% of all oil in the United States. He also had significant interests in banking, shipping, mining, railroads, and other industries. Aside from being one of the revolutionary figures of the energy and petroleum industries, Rockefeller is also known for his philanthropy, founding 2 colleges during his lifetime, the University of Chicago and Rockefeller University. Number 4. Mansa Musa I of Mali, $415 billion. The 10th Mansa, or Emperor of the Mali Empire, an Islamic West African state, Mansa Musa ascended to the throne in 1312 and ruled for 25 years. He is one of the wealthiest figures in history, probably owing to the fact that Mali was the largest producer of gold in the world at that time, and had half of the world's gold supply at his disposal. During his reign, he conquered 24 cities along with their surrounding districts, including Ghana, Timbuktu, and Gao, where architecture and industry flourished due to Musa's attention towards construction, economy, and education. Number 3. King Solomon of Israel, $2.2 trillion. According to biblical tradition, King Solomon was the third and last king in the ancient United Kingdom of Israel, who was renowned for his wisdom, prolific writings, and his building accomplishments. Said to have been born around 1010 BCE, Solomon was the 10th son of King David, and reigned for 40 years during what many call the Golden Age of Israel. The Bible states that the Israelite monarchy gained its highest splendor and wealth during this time, with tributes collecting amounting to more than 18 tons of gold per year. Trade relationships were a focus of his administration and engaged in the trade of pristine luxury products such as ivory, peacocks, and gold. Number 2. Caesar Augustus, $4.63 trillion. The first Roman emperor who reigned from 27 BC to 1480, Augustus was the founder of the Roman Principate, which was the first phase of the Roman Empire. As emperor, he held a personal fortune equivalent to 20% of the entire empire's economy, which would amount to the trillions that it is today. Augustus during his reign dramatically enlarged the empire, annexing several areas of Africa and even owning Egypt at a certain time. Number 1. Genghis Khan, hundreds of trillions of dollars. The founder and the first great Khan of the Mongol Empire managed to unite the Mongol tribes under his rule and launched the Mongol invasions that conquered most of Eurasia, reaching as far west as Poland and Europe. The reputable leader had a lot of spoils throughout these invasions, which he mostly redistributed among his loyal subjects. Through his efforts, however, his empire managed to conquer up to 12 million square miles of land, which in today's value would be unbelievably in the hundreds of trillions of dollars. And if you're asking how is that possible, well, keep in mind that he was responsible for the deaths of about 40 million people within the boundaries of that 12 million square miles of land that was considered his. So that is definitely tons of loot to loot, and interestingly enough, many of his most trusted generals were at one point his enemy. So what was his stratagem aside from brute force? Well, if the Romans claimed the key to their success was building the roads, as the saying goes, all roads lead to Rome, then the Genghis Khan Mongols owed their claim to victory by creating the world's first postal system. This medieval express was known as Yam and enabled Genghis Khan to keep abreast of military and political developments and maintain contact with his extensive network of spies and scouts. The Yam also helped protect foreign dignitaries and merchants during their travels, allowing Genghis Khan, or the supreme leader, to live up to his title, which was also known as Universal Leader. What do you think about the top 10 richest people in history? We'd love to hear what you think about them by commenting below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and ring the notification bell for more stories.